Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. Tonight we're going to start out not with a person, but with an animal. Speed, the Galapagos tortoise at the San Diego Zoo. Speed died recently. Nobody knows how old he was, but he came to the San Diego Zoo in 1935, and they put his age at least 150. He was the oldest animal at the San Diego Zoo, and here's a little report on Speed in happier times when he was still a rollicking tortoise.
This is Speed. He is our oldest male Galapagos tortoise in the herd, as well as the oldest animal in the entire zoo. Speed came here in 1935, and he was already well into adulthood when he came to our zoo. He was already about 500 pounds then, which makes him well over 100 years old now. Speedy is our largest tortoise. He weighs in at about 617 pounds. He's actually very shy. He's got a very submissive personality despite his size.
Speed had arthritis, so they had to put him down, which when you're over 600 pounds is no mean task. San Diego Zoo, by the way, in the class photo for the best zoo in the United States. We're going to move on now to Dick Van Patten, who died recently at the age of 86, and he was in the long tradition of TV dads as Tom Bradford in the late 70s show 8 is Enough. Here's a little report on Dick Van Patten.
Dick Van Patten, who grew up as a busy child actor on Broadway to be a mainstay on U.S. television as the amiable patriarch of the family show 8 is Enough, died on Tuesday at age 86. The actor, whose career spanned about 8 decades, was known for a big smile framed by prominent cheeks and an effusive personality. He came from a family of entertainers and got his first Broadway role at age 7 in 1935. As an adult, he became a familiar face on television shows and in films.
Dick Van Patten's sister was Joyce Van Patten, one of my favorite TV actresses, and on the show he had 2 wives. The first wife was Diana Hyland, but she died after the first year. Brandon Tartikoff saw Betty Buckley and Carrie liked her. Both Diana Hyland and Betty Buckley were great actresses. We're going to see that phenomenon of 2 great female leads a little later in the program again. How about a little theme song from 8 is Enough?
There's a magic in the early morning we found, when the sunrise smiles on everything around. It's a portrait of the happiness that we feel and always will. Oh, 8 is enough to fill our lives with love.
Pure 70s schlock with a disco beat. Here's Dick Van Patten talking about his role as Tom Bradford.
He was very much like me. I'll tell you why. His family came first. His career was second. And it's the same with me. My family comes first. The career is second. And a lot of people, the career comes first. And I think that's the kind of father he was. And in real life, too. He was a very important man, Tom Brady.
Dick Van Patten also starred in 3 Mel Brooks movies, High Anxiety, Spaceballs, and Robin Hood Men in Tights, and here he talks about how he got involved with Mel Brooks.
It was all through Carl Reiner. You remember the Dick Van Dyke Show? Well, when the Dick Van Dyke Show went off the air, Carl Reiner wrote and produced a new Dick Van Dyke Show. Most people don't know about it because it wasn't on that long. I had to go up and read for Carl Reiner to play Dick Van Dyke's boss. So I read, and Carl Reiner said, "You got the part, I like you." So then we worked together every week on the new Dick Van Dyke Show. Hope Lang played his wife on that show. And so he said to me, "You have a tennis court at your house, don't you?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Every Sunday, my friends and I, we rent a court and we play. Would it be all right if we came over to your house and you include you and we all play together?" I said, "Sure, come over Sunday about 12 o'clock. So he comes over that Sunday. He brings Alan Alda with him, Gene Wilder's wife, and Mel Brooks. And all these people, I couldn't get over it. We played every Sunday at 1 o'clock. And one day we were playing. Carl Reiner was playing with Mel, and I was playing with Alan Alda. During the tennis match, Mel Brooks called me over. He said, "Dick, I'm doing a new series, a TV series, called When Things Were Rotten. It's all about Robin Hood, and it's going to be like a farce comedy. Dick, would you like to play Friar Tuck?" I said, "Yeah, I would." I said, "But isn't he a big fat man?" He said, "Yes, he's not. I know you're not fat, but you have a fat man's face." And he said, "If we padded you and everything, you would look like a fat person." So I do the show. I figure it's going to run for years. Mel Brooks is so big. And it was a very funny show. And I was Friar Tuck. I thought it would go on for years. And it was canceled after 13 weeks. I don't know why. It was such a funny show. It was so good. They were standing in line to see Mel Brooks movies, and he gives them free Mel Brooks on television, and they cancel it. I was really surprised. But anyway, while I was doing it, I got friendly with Mel Brooks, and then when he did movies, He always put me in one of his movies. I was in about 3 or 4 of them.
We're going to move on now to James Horner, who died recently at the age of 61. He was the most successful film composer of our generation. I got to be honest with you, I thought his stuff was sort of sappy and cloying, but what do I know? He won 2 Academy Awards and also co-authored one of the best-selling songs of the 20th century. I'll let him tell his story here.
I was born in Los Angeles and then I moved to England when I was about 1.5. My father was in the theatre. I grew up in the UK. I went to college in the UK, came back here, now classically trained musician. And my whole point of coming back to the States when I was about 22 was to get all these graduate degrees, to get a teaching job, be a professor somewhere, and get grants and commissions and be on the treadmill of trying to get my serious work performed. But somebody who had seen one of my classical pieces performed was a director, and he asked me to write the music for his first film. It was like a bolt of lightning. It was like, this is what a classical composer should be doing in this day and age. My first job is to service the film. I can't go off and be Stravinsky or be Joe Schmo. I've got to service the film for the audience. If I alienate the audience by being some fancy artiste, I'm screwing everybody up. Sometimes the director doesn't know what he's really asking for. I never listen to my scores once I'm done. I never listen to them again. I try and clear my head completely. In Hollywood, you're not allowed to carry an idea into your next project, and so I tend never to listen again to a project. I'm the only one who knows what an audience is going to see. It's the music's job to milk it for all it's worth without changing history.
He wrote all sorts of film scores: Wrath of Khan, Braveheart, Field of Dreams, Avatar. This is sort of the only one I like. It's from American Talent. Even this one, I think Linda Ronstadt and James Ingram save it.
Somewhere out there beneath the pale moonlight, someone's thinking of me and loving me tonight.
Somewhere out there, someone singing a prayer.
But James Horner's big kahuna was Titanic. He got an Academy Award for it, and Celine Dion's recording of My Heart Will Go On sold 15 million copies and was the biggest record of 1998. I don't know, I still don't get it. We're going to move on now to our feature, Patrick Macnee, who died at 93, and he was John Steed in the Avengers, one of the iconic television series of all time, maybe one of the best television series to ever come out of Britain. Sort of a quasi-detective series, but the thing that made it was the interplay between him and his female leads. The first was Honor Blackman, but we didn't get to see much of her in the United States because she left to play in Goldfinger. And then the great Diana Rigg took over for 2 seasons as Mrs. Peel. Here's a little bit of Steed and Peel dueling verbally and with foils.
The coffee's over there.
Not enough flexibility in the wrist. Weight on the wrong foot. Friendly advice. There doesn't appear to be any cream.
The cream is in the kitchen.
Oh. I could take it black.
Here's Matthew Bannister, the BBC4 last word on Patrick Macnee, including an interview with Dame Diana Rigg.
Patrick Macnee was the suave actor who played the British spy John Steed in the TV series The Avengers. With his trademark steel-reinforced bowler hat and umbrella sword stick, he oozed charm and style. Teaming up first with Honor Blackman and then Diana Rigg, Macnee's character navigated his way through countless dangerous situations without a hair out of place. How much of his own character do you think was in the character of John Steed?
I don't think there is much to John Steed apart from Macnee himself. He was given pretty much a free rein with that character.
Dame Diana Rigg played John Steed's partner Emma Peel in The Avengers. What do you think made Patrick Macnee so good as John Steed?
Oh, his style, his elegance, his wit. He was wonderfully light-footed, if you know what I mean.
Was there a lot of him in the character?
Oh, yes, a very great deal.
So that was what he was like off-screen as well?
Yes,
charming.
Absolutely adorable.
But one of the great things about the Avengers was that the female character, the character you played, was in a way stronger than his character.
Yeah, but it was an equal relationship because the pair played together so well, and I, as his sort of sidekick, fully understood that the ultimate power lay with him.
No.
Why?
I enjoyed the spin in the country. The sauce hollandaise was worth crossing 4 counties for. Now, tell me why.
Now, surely you don't suggest high-level anxiety at the Treasury.
Really?
And what about the fact that he never carried a gun? Instead, he carried this umbrella sword stick.
He was asked to carry a gun, and he said no. So in The Avengers, Steed very, very rarely kills anybody. When it does happen, it's always by some totally bizarre method.
Of my bowler hat.
The violent part of the plot was carried more by the female member of the team than by him. He often stood on the sidelines in the violent scenes.
Did you find him very supportive as an actor to work with?
Oh, he was just wonderful. I owe him a very great deal because I stepped in to a program that was up and running, and people can make it difficult for you under those circumstances. Patrick never did. He was incredibly supportive and kind and helped me through those early episodes, and I owe him a very, very great deal.
I think what you get with The Avengers is a key text of English surrealism. It creates a world which you almost believe existed, in which you would go through the English countryside, always the southeast, always Buckinghamshire, I think, and there are villages where everybody is a Russian spy, or where the milkman has amnesia producing yoghurt on the back of his cart. One of the things about Patrick Macnee that is an admirable quality in any actor is that he really appreciated what it was that had made his name, made him famous, and the place where he'd done his best work. He achieved that much talked about, but really very rarely seen, iconic status.
Always keep your bowler on in times of stress.
I think the last scene that we played together is the scene that sums us and our relationship up.
Watch out for diabolical monster.
I'll remember.
Full of love, and it's got a tinge of regret about it. It's just warm and lovely.
Emma, thanks.
At the end of every episode of The Avengers, there's a scene which has some rather marvellous music composed by Laurie Johnson, which was valedictory, laid back, dinner jazz. I've got some champagne here. This is how every episode of The Avengers ended. And let's end the episode of his life and career with it too. Cheers.
Cheers.
Can you get us down?
Eventually, yes. I still think I can.
Eventually.
There's no hurry. Is there?
Here's Patrick Macnee reflecting on the Avengers late in life.
I've covered a wide range of parts over a very long career, most of it extremely badly. I do a few things very well. The Hat was merely incidental to the Avengers. It was a brilliant comedy, well conceived. All the directors on it are now top directors in Hollywood. Most of the writers are very successful novelists, so we must have been a little ahead of our time.
A proper British gentleman character.
Well, the only way you can get that, I'm not, of course, I'm Scottish, and I lived outside the country, outside Great Britain for years and years and years. I emigrated to Canada in 1952, and the only way to get the correct English gentleman is to be apart from him and see him as somebody else. If I was like that in a bowler hat and slightly sort of strained, the part wouldn't have worked at all. It related to a woman, and it was done on observation, the way Johnny Sless and John, a lot of these Lynch, all these English directors and Australian directors are allowed to do, like Tender Mercies, American subjects, but with a view from another country. I think we've got to do that.
I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps. I'm going to close tonight with Don Featherstone, who died recently at the age of 79. Don Featherstone was the creator of the most famous plastic lawn ornament in history, the pink flamingo. Before him, most plastic lawn ornaments were two-dimensional. He didn't make much money off it, but hey, got a famous movie named after it. And in the 2011 Disney movie Romeo and Juliet, there was a pink flamingo named Featherstone. The other thing I like about Don Featherstone is he and his wife wore matching outfits every day for 37 years. In tribute to Don Featherstone, we're going to play a song that was made popular in 1966 by Manfred Mann, great vocal by Paul Jones, who incidentally was offered the job as the frontman for the Rolling Stones before Mick Jagger. He was actually better looking and a better singer. Bad career move, Paul. But in tribute to Don Featherstone, we're going to play the cover of Pretty Flamingo by my men, the Everly Brothers. Pretty good also.
On our blood, all of the guys call her Flamingo, 'cause her hair glows like the sun, and her eyes in like the sky. she walks, she moves so fine, like a flamingo. Crimson dress that clings so tight, she's out of reach, she's out of sight.